Like, has a man ever spoken to you like that before? I'm so sorry. It's not about you. And I say whisper, but it was violently loud. Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Discern. Boy, oh boy, girl, oh girl, have I waited a long time to say that. And when I say waited, it might have been my own fear, my own insecurities, my own doubt that has gotten in the way of me starting this podcast. But here we are today, and hopefully, that's something I can talk a little bit more about in today's episode, because today's episode is titled, Why Are You Hiding? Let's get into why, or who, should I say, the podcast is for. The podcast is for anyone. This podcast is for everyone, but specifically our ideal listener is the woman, the girl, or anyone wanting to improve their lives. Anyone obsessed with self-development, or at least trying to be. Anyone interested in making better decisions in all aspects of their lives. For the people imperfect, for the people deep-souled yet light-hearted, for the people struggling to take control of their lives and would like to. If you love Jesus like me, that's also a plus. And the goals of the podcast really is to equip others, especially women, to channel discernment and make better decisions, to encourage and empower women to go after their dreams and goals, to become better versions of ourselves by pursuing what we are called to do, and to have fun and engaging conversations while doing so. This podcast aims to tackle everything from faith to finances, careers, relationships, friendships, self-development, self-improvement, you name it, and so much more. To know me is to know that I absolutely love a candle. So the first segment of the podcast that I would like to introduce is called What Am I Burning? So every time I record an episode, I'll have a candle burning and I will tell you guys what scent I'm burning. So today I'm burning a candle by Diptyque. It is called Boulevard Saint Germain. It gives fresh, it gives elderflower, and I think that's the vibe for today's episode. So now let's get into today's episode. Why are you hiding? I've shared a little bit about my journey and why I have stayed hidden out of fear, self-doubt, insecurity. And I believe I'm not the only person that wrestles with this. Sometimes we are hiding because we are afraid to fail. Sometimes we hide because we are afraid to be seen trying. Sometimes we hide because we are afraid of being misunderstood. Other times, I believe that God Himself hides us out of protection, out of helping us prepare for who we are meant to be. So today we're going to unpack both sides of that coin. The kind of hiding that comes from fear and the kind of hiding that comes as protection from God. So one of the reasons I believe a lot of us hide is the fear of being seen. So particularly for me, I have always struggled with being seen and being visible, especially in an age where it's almost like the majority of people, or the popular notion is that everybody wants to be famous, everybody wants to be seen, everybody wants to portray their lifestyle on social media. And while to some degree I agree with that, I do think there's a little niche of us that we don't actually want to be seen at all. In fact, we are terrified by being seen, by being perceived, and letting others into our lives to some extent. And for someone who's felt like they have this calling to serve and help other women, it's often been like an internal struggle for me to navigate, okay, do I want to be seen? Because in order to pursue this purpose, in order to reach this goal, I do need to be seen to some capacity. But on the other hand, I want to hide because I don't want anyone to judge me. I don't want anyone to misunderstand me. I don't have this perfectly curated life. And I think I'm not the only one that struggles with this internal wrestle or in this internal battle. In an age where everyone's on social media and putting their lives out there, I do think that it even increases the stakes, because we often feel like we need to measure up against other people, and we compare ourselves, not in a malicious or competitive way, but essentially we always use other people's lives and realistically other people's highlight reels as a measuring stick to what our lives should look like, what we should be doing, and what we should look like, our weight, our size, our skin, whatever you may call it. And then there's another part of hiding that is just the fear of being seen trying. And again, it comes back to that competitiveness. We want to compare our day one to somebody's day 365. Like, you want to do content creation and you don't want to post that first video that might only get 2 views because XYZ over here has 1 million views on a similar video. But everybody has to start somewhere. But we're scared of being cringe, we're scared of being embarrassing, we're scared the business might fail, we're scared the idea won't be accepted by other people. So in order to avoid that disappointment, avoid that embarrassment, we just don't do anything at all. I love a good quote. So I've got some quotes here around the fear of being seen. My fear of being real, of being seen, paralyzes me into silence. I crave the touch and the connection, but I'm not always brave enough to open my hand and reach out. And I think that sums so many of us up. We crave the touch and connection, but our fear of being real, our fear of being seen paralyzes us into silence. And I think it's a scary place to be. Like, you want something, but you don't go after it because you're so scared about what is on the other side. But by paralyzing ourselves, by doing nothing, we still don't get what we crave. We still don't get that connection, that touch that we crave. This quote is brilliant by Tim Kreider, and it says, "The mortifying ordeal of being known." Short, simple, straight to the point. And that word mortifying, I really underline it in my mind, because do you know what it is to be mortified? Like, you are mortified for people to know you. Why? Because the vulnerability that comes along with allowing others to truly see you, for some of us, is a very scary concept. And I get it. And the other side of hiding is where I believe hiding can be needed and necessary for some seasons of our life. Sometimes it's not fear at all. Sometimes it's just that we're not ready yet. I've had seasons in my life where I've started things. I've started a YouTube channel in the past. I've started a blog in the past. And I stopped some of these things not because I was scared of being seen per se, but because I didn't have the resilience to keep going when everything didn't look perfect. I didn't have the character to keep going, and I was focused so much on me and myself that I was incapable of stewarding these things that I had the courage to start, had the courage to put myself out there in some capacity, but I didn't have the courage to see it through. And looking back, I can see how God was calling me out of being visible and calling me into seasons of hiddenness, not to hold me back, but to make sure that I grew up. For a long time, like I said, I've known I've had this calling. I've known that I'm meant to serve and pour into other people, but I was trying to pour from a place that was still broken at times. I was trying to pour from a place that still needed maturing, trying to pour from a place that importantly still needed healing. So God pulled me back into quiet reflection and to do the internal work. Has the work completely finished right now? No. But I do think I've spent the last couple of years really learning and growing and understanding myself as a woman. I have deepened my faith. I have deepened my resilience. Oh, English. And I'm now going to try with this podcast to show up from a place of wholeness versus striving versus self-focus. So I hope that this time I can serve from a place of strength. And I've also got some quotes on the importance of hiddenness. There's a time for exposure. Until then, keep laboring in obscurity. That's by Bernard Clive. Hey, English today. That quote is by Bernard Kelvin Klein. Wow, Clive, jeez. Okay. That quote is by Bernard Kelvin Clive. Sorry, I'm clearly nervous. This is episode 1. And this quote, which I love so much, is being unseen by people doesn't mean you're unseen by God. So you might be in a season right now where you have an idea and you want to do these things, but something is holding you back. Not fear. Something is keeping you in a season where, you're doing the groundwork, you're doing the behind the scenes work. Just because other people can't see it doesn't mean God can't see it. So I've spoken about the reasons we hide, but let's now unpack it small and give ourselves tools to make sure that we aren't doing this going forward, and also to be able to discern between what season we're in, whether we're hiding or God is hiding us. When I think about fear, I think about it being used as a survival skill. Fear exists to help us raise our awareness. However, some of us have used it to stop our progress entirely. And I think if we're then going to have this fear, we should fear regret above anything else. Do you want to look back at your life and think, wow, I didn't do any of the things I wanted to do. I didn't do any of the things I strongly believe I was called to do because I was scared, because I was fearful. And in order to not live a life of fear, we need to live a life of courage. And courage doesn't cancel out, it doesn't eliminate fear, but it allows us to take steps and to take actions in spite of the fear. But rather making a decision to push past it even when fear is present. And I believe we can do that through belief in ourselves first and foremost, and consistent action. So when I say that, I mean, I'm going to use myself as an example and this podcast, which I'll do a lot. I don't think episode 1 is going to be perfect. I don't think episode 2 is going to be perfect. I don't think episode 10 is going to be perfect. But if I keep sitting here, keep showing up, keep speaking, I will only get better. I have no choice but to get better. So in order to do that, I need to believe in myself and I need to consistently show up, and I will get there. You owe it to yourself to take that action. Let your dreams be bigger than your fears. Let your dreams be bigger than your insecurities. Fear is a distraction. Some level of uncertainty is required to leaving your comfort zone. And what if it goes right? We are so quick to tell ourselves, what if it goes wrong? What if everything that you are afraid of is the catalyst to starting the life that you have dreamed of? In fact, I'll do you one better. What if the success, the fulfillment, the purpose, the happiness that is sitting on the other side of your fear is better than you could have dreamt, thought, or imagined? So the next time you're asking yourself, what if it goes wrong? I dare you to also ask yourself, what if it goes right? And I have some scriptures to share. As I mentioned, I do love me some Jesus. So 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for God has given us a spirit not of fear, but of power, love, and self-control. Deuteronomy 31:8 says, "The Lord himself goes before you, and he will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid and do not be discouraged." So even when things are not perfectly right straight away, keep trusting, keep believing, consistent action. You've got this. Another reason, or one of the reasons I feel specifically why hiding isn't worth it, is because you can't be hidden anyway. And Matthew 5:14-16 sums this up perfectly to me. It's one of my favorite scriptures because I believe it just shows how romantic God is. The New Living Translation reads, "You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house." Like, has a man ever spoken to you like that before? Do you hear how romantic that is? You are a light. You cannot be hidden. You are meant to give light to everybody in the house, not be placed under a basket, not to be put on the floor, like a city on a hilltop. Like, hello? So in essence, we are lights. We cannot be hidden. This scripture encourages us to live openly, to live boldly, to be visible with our actions and our beliefs, and to let our positive qualities shine for the world to see. Hiding keeps us safe for a little while, but it also keeps us small. I read that in a book for ADHD Christian women. That's a topic for another day. But I love that quote. Like, you may feel safe, but you will also be small when you stay hidden. Another reason I believe that hiding isn't worth it is the perfect conditions aren't coming. Like, I'm so sorry to break it to you, but they are not coming. Ecclesiastes 11:4 tells us, "Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Farmers who wait for perfect weather will never plant." And this verse simply suggests that faith and trust are necessary to do any action. You cannot fully control everything, every circumstance, every situation around you before starting, before planting. Again, I was guilty with this podcast. I want to have this, I want to have that, I need to have this. All these things in my life need to be sorted before I start this thing. False, wrong, distraction. I think that God's work is often beyond human comprehension. So we as individuals or human beings, we are paralyzed by any sort of uncertainty we have. We like control. We like to know how this thing is going to go. We like to know how it's going to end. But I think there's a certain level of faith required to come out of our hidden seasons and pursue things that we want to or are called to pursue. There's a certain level of faith and relying on God, and not knowing the outcome and trusting that all will be well. I saw this thing on TikTok ages ago, and it says that readiness is a decision and not a milestone. There will never be circumstances where you'll be like, I have everything I could possibly ever want or need. But there is a point where you can decide, I am ready to embark on this journey and see how it goes. And then another reason I strongly believe that hiding isn't worth it is that, I'm so sorry, it's not about you. Not everything is about you. I have come to the conclusion, for me specifically, and God, you hear me as I'm saying this one, I cannot seek my own glory and God's glory at the same time. Impossible. I particularly remember this incident where I was feeling a bit down, wanted some encouragement, some pick me up, and I went onto YouTube and I was trying to find like a young Christian babe who can, who had a video that would, zhuzh my spirits a little bit. And I felt the Lord whisper to me in that moment. And I say whisper, but it was violently loud. And I heard God whisper, this is who you should be for somebody else. Hey. And in that moment, it hit me. Somebody else is out there looking for encouragement, looking for a young woman that they could relate to speak about life topics, to speak about the difficulties of being a living, breathing human, specifically a woman, and you're not doing what you're meant to do. Somebody is not getting that video because you're not doing what you're meant to do. And I do believe that God can raise anyone. I strongly believe that if you don't do it, God will find somebody else. Absolutely. But I do believe there's a plan and a purpose for each and every one of us. And as a result of that, we are tied to each other. There is people reliant on your gift. There is people reliant on mine. And that's why I say you can't seek your glory and God's at the same time, because it's not about just me. It's about what God wants to use me. It's about what God wants to use you to do. Your creativity, your gifts, they aren't just about self-expression. Self-expression is great, but it's about serving others ultimately, and ultimately bringing glory back to God. And I think we nurture our gifts and we get better at our gifts by serving others. It's back to that belief in yourself, consistent action point. And part of that means we have to be okay with no one clapping for us at first, and knowing that this calling, this venture, it's bigger than you, it's bigger than yourself, and you and I need to get to a point where if all the validation didn't come with it, would we still do it? And that answer confidently being yes, absolutely. And I've seen this analogy so many places, so I just know I'm meant to share it. And it's the picking fruits from a tree analogy, that basically when you walk past a tree, you can pick up fruit, right? So the trees that bear fruit, they don't bear it for themselves, they bear it for the people walking past. And I believe we as the humans are all trees in this example. We don't just have the fruit that we produce for ourselves to consume ourselves, but we have it so the people that we come in contact to, or with rather, they can benefit from this fruit, this gift that we are bearing. Again, back to the light, we are meant to bring light to everybody in the house, not just ourselves. Another reason I believe that hiding isn't worth it is that we are called to create. There is so much scientific evidence, research, studies that shows how creativity or pursuing certain ventures is beneficial for us as human beings, like it is a core to our being. And I remember this quote or this line that my therapist shared with me, and it has just rung in my brain ever since. She said that confidence is built by what you spend your time doing and how you feel about what you spend your time doing. If you want to be more confident, be creative in the things that you have your area or your avenue of creativity, right? In that area, be creative. God is the original creator, and I believe we are created in his image, right? So surely that means we are also creators. Proverbs talks about using our skills in order to be brought in front of kings. And I think that is true, that when we create, when we hone in and we practice our skills and our gifts, they will bring us into rooms that we want to be in. They will bring us into rooms that we might have even counted ourselves out and felt we would never enter those rooms. And I've listed some of the benefits of being creative here, and it includes stress reduction, improved mental health, improved self-esteem, self-awareness, increased cognitive function, problem solving, a sense of purpose and achievement, better communication, and development of strengths and talents. Hello. So there's so many benefits of it. But again, this analogy comes to mind. A ship is safe at harbour, but that's not what they're built for. Just as I was saying, like, you might feel safe when you play it small and you're hidden, but it also keeps you small. So just like the ship, we might feel safe when we're hidden and no one can see us, but you weren't built for that. You were called to create. And this parable from the Bible sums up why hiding isn't always the best option for us. It's the parable of the hidden talents. I was doing Bible study with the girls recently, and my friend referred to this talent as a horror story, which just cracks me up. But it's a lesson, I think, or a cautionary tale, I should say, in why we shouldn't hide. So, for those of you who don't know about the parable of the hidden talents, a quick summary. A master is going on a journey and he entrusts his servants with his property. One receives 5 talents, which is a large sum of money. The other one receives 2 talents. The last one receives 1 talent, and they're basically given these talents according to their ability. So while the master is away, the servant with 5 talents earns 5 more. The servant with 2 talents earns 2 more. The servant with 1 talent buries it out of fear and does nothing with it. When the master returns, he's praising the first 2 for being faithful and fruitful and rewarding them with even greater responsibility and joy. But the third servant who hid his talent is rebuked for being lazy and fearful, and the talent is taken away. Me personally, I would not like to be rebuked. I would not like to be called lazy, and I would not like any gift that God has placed in me to be taken away. And I do believe we serve a gracious and merciful God, or I serve a gracious and merciful God. However, I do think this is a cautionary tale that when God gives us things according to our own ability, we shouldn't be looking at what the other people have, number one, but we should multiply it. We shouldn't hide it. We should look for ways to invest in it and multiply it. And I think that helps us to remember that whatever God has given to us, we should cherish, we should steward, and ultimately, our gifts aren't for us. We shouldn't hide our gifts because that is wasted potential. And the person who lets fear, doubt, and procrastination keep them from working in their purpose ultimately is wasted potential. Now let's go on to the other side of hiding and why we may hide. Hiddenness builds character. So I know a lot of this episode we focused on hiding out of fear and hiding out of our own human limitation, but I do believe there's another side to hiddenness where we are hidden for a purpose. And I think it's important for us to discern when we are hiding out of fear and when we are hiding out of necessity in order to grow. I recently read this book called Anonymous, Jesus' Hidden Years and Yours, and that book changed my life. I love it. I recommend it to any and everyone. But essentially, in that book, it is discussing how Jesus' first 30 years were spent in obscurity. They were largely undocumented for. We know about Jesus' birth, and then we know about an incident when he was about 12 years old in the temple. But largely, we don't know much about Jesus' first 30 years of life. And obviously, he then performs his first miracle at around 30 years old. And I think knowing and understanding that, I also read this book when I was 29, just about to turn 30, knowing and understanding that Jesus came to this earth to save us. Like, that was the purpose right from the very beginning. It was prophesied that this would be the case long before it happened. And even in that, where he had a distinct calling, 30 years was spent hidden. 30 years was spent in obscurity in order for Jesus to be prepared to do what he needed to do. He can do anything. He was fully God and fully man. He could do anything. So if Jesus can spend time in hidden seasons, we can certainly do the same too. And the author uses the iceberg metaphor, which I just love. And essentially, she talks about how an iceberg, there are times where, or majority of the time, the bulk of the iceberg is underwater. So the majority of the damage it can do is underwater. We all know the phrase, the tip of the iceberg. The tip is what you see, and everything else is under. But the iceberg is so big and so powerful, even though you cannot see it. So even though all of your life may not be visible or may be seen, it doesn't mean that you aren't powerful. It doesn't mean that you aren't capable. What is hidden makes that bit that shows at the top even more terrifying. Like, you are powerful beyond what you even think or where you limit yourself to be. And I strongly believe that there will be times in our lives that we hide because we are being prepared and we are being built. And that iceberg, that the bits that people will see on the outside, this podcast for me is just a little bit of what I have to offer. Where I am truly built is in my hidden seasons and the things that people do not and will not see. This quote in the book just sums it up for me perfectly. The sleepy days of winter hide us, so the seductive days of summer do not ruin us. Like, wow. Sorry, I love that so much. And essentially, it talks about we need those winter seasons, we need those hidden seasons. So when we're out and we're exposed in the summer, we are not easily seduced by what the seduction that the summertime brings. We don't want to be overexposed and underdeveloped. So I've told you about the reasons we hide from our own fear, our own insecurity. I've told you about the reasons why we may need to hide to develop our character and why those hidden seasons are important. So I have some final words as we close today's episode. I have to be honest, this episode feels very personal to me. It's the very first episode of Discern, and in many ways it's me coming out of hiding too. While I feel so much of my hidden seasons have been important for me developing myself, my character, my heart, for a long time I have let fear keep me back, let it keep me quiet. I feared being seen, I feared being misunderstood, I feared not always getting it perfectly right. But I've learned that sometimes the real fear isn't failing, it's being seen trying. We wait for perfect timing, perfect conditions, perfect clarity. But perfectionism is just fear dressed up as wisdom. And perfect conditions, they're not coming. Trust me, I tried to wait for them too. I truly believe we are the lights of the world. You weren't created to hide or play small. Your gifts were given to you for a purpose far greater than your fears. The world is waiting on a light only you can shine, the stories only you can tell, the beauty only you can create. Nothing God tells you to do is to your detriment, only to the detriment of your comfort. But here's the thing, not all hiding is wrong. Sometimes God hides us on purpose, not because we are forgotten, not because he wants to forget us, but because he's protecting what he's building within us. Hidden seasons are sacred. They're where our character deepens, they're where our roots strengthen, and where our motivations are refined. Just like Jesus spent 30 years hidden before his 3 public ones, our unseen seasons are not wasted. They're preparation for divine timing. So maybe you're like me. You're discerning between, am I hiding out of fear or am I hiding out of being hidden by God? Here's how we distinguish. One delays your purpose, the other one develops it. In your willingness to be out there, to be seen, ask yourself, what is the motive behind your yes? Is it fame? Is it wealth? Is it celebrity? Is it ego? In your hiddenness, ask yourself, am I saying no out of timidity, fear, insecurity, or lack of control? Step out. Even if your hands tremble and your knees wobble, you don't have to be finished or perfect to start. You only have to be willing. Your voice matters, your vision is necessary, and when the time is right, what God has been growing in secret will shine, steady, strong, and ready for the light. Thank you so much for listening to the first episode of Discern. So as we wrap up today's episode, one thing I wanted to introduce is another segment called What I've Decided This Week. So after today's episode, I've decided that I am a light. No matter what happens in this podcast and this first episode, I will not be discouraged. My focus is on vision and not validation. And then I have some recommended resources, the book Anonymous, which I've referenced. I'll have it linked down below, but also You Are the Girl for the Job by Jess Connolly. I hope I've said that right. So I'm really excited to embark on this journey, to be seen as me, to be seen trying, to be seen starting, to be seen vulnerable. Thank you and for watching and listening to the end. I hope you stayed for the vibes, but leave learning to discern better. Hope you'll follow along on this journey, and let's pick this conversation up in a couple of weeks. See ya.